Welcome back to 3 Ways to Build, a series in which we take common Minecraft ideas and build them 3 different ways. Much like in the previous episode where we built this beautiful little farmland, we're going to be taking a look today at a kind of build that a lot of people make in their Minecraft worlds but don't often put very much thought into, which in my opinion is actually a really big shame because these kinds of builds are really cool when you can do them right. And of course, I'm talking about roads. Quick shoutouts to Adoy I have no idea how to pronounce this guy's name, but thank you to you for providing the inspiration for today's video. And of course, if you have any video ideas for future 3 Ways to Build videos, please do leave a comment down below. I am always looking for more video ideas. So as I was planning for today's video, I was thinking about the different kinds of roads that people often make in their Minecraft builds and like what purposes they serve. People make roads to either create a sort of like city grid layout connecting a bunch of different places together and providing some cohesion between many smaller builds, or connecting 2 faraway locations in the form of like a minecart track or a footpath, something along that nature where it's not really as orderly and grid-like. So because of that, today's video is going to be slightly different in the way that we're going to be looking at a basic, insane, and balanced build for each of those 2 different, I guess you could say, philosophies. Starting off with our basic build, and you guys are not gonna like this one. I know my basic builds can get pretty bare bones at times, but here's the thing about roads, right? If you're making the most simplistic, bare bones, like no effort, 5-minute kind of BS, like connect 2 different locations, all you really gotta do is grab a shovel and just... There you go. You've connected 2 different locations with a footpath. Yeah, great content, huh? And on a similar vein, if you were designing some sort of like grid city layout and you wanted to make things as simple and quick and bare bones as possible, and there is your city plan layout. You could fit so many terrible looking Minecraft houses right here. Anyways, guys, I know that was extraordinarily unhelpful, but at the very least, I hope it helped illustrate my point, talking about the differences between those 2 kinds of road ideas. Now, with that terrible display of Minecraft building out of the way, let's go talk about our insane builds. I've been having a whole lot of fun putting together a really cool looking rustic metropolitan city street style for our insane build, and I cannot wait to show you guys. And in typical 3 Ways to Build fashion, I've got it all in a time lapse. Enjoy. That's quite a lot of blackstone. Here is our insane build, or rather the first of the... Oh, that's not supposed to be there. You didn't see that. First of our 2 insane builds. This one, of course, being the city grid network, connect a bunch of different places together style of making roads, and I think it turned out pretty well. As much as I would have enjoyed building up an entire city, buildings and parks and everything, that's just a little bit out of the scope of this video considering we are talking about roads, so I'm sorry that the city looks pretty flat and barren right now, but I hope you guys are still able to appreciate the amount of thought and planning I put into the design for the roads themselves. I've separated them into kind of 2 different styles of roads. We've got the main roads here, which of course have the trolley tracks running down them. I thought that was a very nice touch. And then of course we have the side streets here, which are only 7 blocks wide as opposed to 9. These do not have any sort of streetcar access. These are really just meant for vehicles and pedestrians, of course. Oh, and of course, last but not least, we cannot neglect this pretty cool lamppost design. Given that we're using blackstone for the cobble streets and we got these streetcar rails and stuff, things felt kind of Victorian, so I wanted to have a lamppost that matched that kind of aesthetic. Of course, we're also introducing a little bit of the cyan here between the buttons and the sea lanterns and all that. So this is great for building like a city or a town or really any sort of thing where you've got like an organized grid style layout with a bunch of geometric roads and stuff. But what if you want something a little bit more natural, more built into nature, you know? What if you're trying to connect 2 faraway places with a beautiful little wilderness trail meandering through the forest? Well, I've got a build for that one as well. It's very cool, and why don't we go take a look at that right now? Alright, anyways, that was pretty fun, but in terms of the build here, I really do hope you guys have enjoyed these two different styles of making roads, and of course the two different kind of philosophies that went alongside them. And to explain a little bit better what I mean here, think about the first time lapse that we just watched. It was all about using an insane amount of resources and making something very grand and majestic. Even if things were a little bit plain, it was all about the scale. But this time around, you might be thinking that this isn't really that much for an insane build, supposedly. But where this build lacks in its size and ambition, it makes up for in its detail and the amount of time and care I put into every single individual aspect of this road. The block palette, the positions of the different textures, the positions of the lighting, the shapes of the leaves and the rocks and the trees around them, and I really do hope that it shows in the finished build. But as cool as these builds are, this very serene, peaceful forest trail, and this metropolis mega city build, well, at least the road part of it, neither of these are particularly feasible for your average, regular old vanilla Minecraft survival player, and that is totally fine. I definitely went a little bit over the top in a couple different ways with both of these builds, and I think it would be great to finish off this video with something a little bit more manageable, a little bit more survival friendly. And that of course is our third and final set of builds for today, the balance builds. Let's go take a look at that. And here we are. Now you're probably thinking that this looks quite a lot like our insane build for the same kind of road, but hear me out because there's definitely a few very important differences. While it looks very similar at a first glance, that's really just because the two roads are trying to accomplish the same thing. But if you look a little bit closer, you'll notice that we've made some very important block palette swaps and other subtle changes to make this infinitely more accessible and buildable in regular survival Minecraft. First of all, as I'm sure you've probably noticed, we've replaced all of the black stone with the mud here. Not only is mud easier to obtain, but it's also a lot easier to farm in large quantities. We've done away with the cool little trolley lines on the roads, which is a little bit unfortunate, but those were using a whole lot of anvils to look nice, and that's definitely not very obtainable. We're overall using a lot more survival friendly materials like deep slate instead of black stone, and of course the stone and andesite from the previous build. And looking at the lamppost over here, you can see that we've swapped out basically everything that would be difficult to get large quantities of. There was a cauldron here, there is an anvil in a cauldron, there is a lodestone, there is a sea lantern and stuff. That's all been replaced with much more friendly materials like acacia wood, deep slate, and shroom lights. I gotta say, building all these road networks and stuff is kinda making me wanna build like a city of some kind. I think that might be kinda fun actually. If you guys have any ideas for a city, or if you'd wanna see me build a city in Minecraft using a road network very similar to this one right here, do let me know down in the comments. I think it would be a really fun challenge. And moving on to our second balance build, for which we can actually take a look at a lot of the pathways that I put together in my good old 1.18 survival series. I know I keep coming back to this, but there were a lot of really cool builds and examples of good builds in this world that I still really enjoy. As you can see, we've been walking on this pathway, which looks pretty similar to what I showed off in our insane build, without the shaders of course, but everything's kind of been toned down a bit. And the main reason for that is, well, when you're making pathways like this, you'll often have to connect builds that are crazy distances away, hundreds if not thousands of blocks away. And while that insane build from earlier might have seemed pretty simple in terms of the materials used, when you're building on such a long distance, things do really start to add up. On the other hand, all the materials right here are incredibly easy to farm. Moss, very easy to obtain and still pretty easy to farm. And the only other custom blocks we're using here are spruce slabs, which are very cheap, and coarse dirt, which of course can be crafted from regular dirt and gravel. And because of that, I think this approach is a lot more balanced than the pathway we were looking at earlier. Now, like most of our 3 ways to build videos, I would like to finish things off with a quick little build tutorial, and I have a feeling that you guys are probably a little bit more interested in getting a tutorial for this little bit of road right here. In particular, we're going to be taking a look at this intersection piece right here. I think it's pretty well made and it's pretty easy to reproduce, so we're just going to go through a quick little build tutorial here. So of course, our main blocks are going to be mud and the slabs of the polished andesite and the stone varieties. Our road is going to be 5 blocks wide, just like that, and these are going to expand back in the 4 different corners to form our 4 different roads that intersect in the middle. Then at each of these corners of the square, you can go ahead and put a slab, and this is where our sidewalks are going to be originating from. These guys were 2 blocks wide, and what you can do is you can go in and throw in a mixture of the stone and the andesite slabs just for a little bit of texture variety, because we love texture variety. Because of course this is a pedestrian-friendly road, we're gonna need to throw in some crosswalks. So 1 block removed from the intersection, I like using white concrete powder, very cheap material of course, and throwing in a 2 block wide strip across all 4 corners of the road, just like that. And that's pretty much our basic layout done already, which I know is very quick and easy. Now we can get to a little bit of the detail work. I like adding storm drains to roads. It adds a tiny bit of realism, and it's a nice little detail you can throw in for not that much extra effort. So going back from these crosswalks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks, these 4 blocks right here, we're gonna put deep slate tiles and some deep slate tile stairs. And then we've got this cool little hole like we're poking through here. So we can go ahead and fill that in with a little bit more mud. Throw in some iron trapdoors on the top, and then you can go and waterlog that entire thing if you want to, of course. Doesn't have to be waterlogged. I guess my storm drains are a little bit clogged, but it's fine. And then you can go and mirror the same thing on the other side here and go ahead and repeat that for every other road section as well. I also like throwing in a little bit of extra deep slate in this middle section here in the actual intersection. My logic behind this is the deep slate tiles look a little bit more like scuffed up and, driven over or walked over. And because this is the central middle section of the road, it's probably going to get a little bit more foot traffic than usual. You could also use cobbled deep slate if you want, but because deep slate tile matches more closely in color with the mud, I kind of prefer it. And now, of course, last but not least, the funny little lampposts. I was only making 2 of these per intersection because I felt like having 4 of these things sticking out at every intersection was a little bit crowded. Of course, you could also put them in the middles of the roads as well. That might even make more sense, but I'm just limiting them to the intersections. So we're gonna start by taking this corner bit of the sidewalk, replacing that with a polished deep slate. Gonna take your stone brick wall and go up by 1, then your chiseled stone brick, and on all of the holes on the sides here we can put acacia buttons. Then go ahead and do 1 more stone brick wall on top like that, 2 andesite walls, a cobblestone wall, and this is going to form a little bit of a light to dark gradient, which we're then going to kind of interrupt with a polished deep slate wall. Quick side note, but there's no good transition block between like cobbled deep slate and cobblestone in the wall variety. Mojang should kind of probably fix that. And then of course we want our lampposts to hang over, so we're going to do polished deep slate, stairs, wall, and another block over pointing into the intersection like this. You can see it overlaps that way or that way, it doesn't really matter. Then we can slap a lantern on top, which of course does provide light, but it's not our main light source. It's really just there for decoration. Our main source of light, of course, is going to be a shroom light, and then we're going to surround that with acacia trapdoors to look kind of like the shade around the light, so it's mainly focused downward. Then of course you just duplicate it on the opposite corner, and there you go. That is the basic construction of our road design, and I think it's pretty fantastic. As always, I really do hope you guys enjoyed today's 3 ways to build video. If you did, a like on the video would be very much appreciated, and if you're not subscribed, consider doing that. It would really be very nice of you, and I would really appreciate that. Until next time, my dudes, this has been Leon, and I will see you all in the next 3 ways to build video. Take care, my friends, and stay cool.